So as we move forward here, before I talk about execution, I think my favorite quote in all of football is the game of football should never be reduced to the point where it simply blames players for not physically overwhelming the opponent. If you're asking a right guard to block a 3 technique and he can't get that done because that guy's better than him, you have to figure out a way to help him out. If you're going to just throw a ball, to an average receiver against a really good cornerback and you're not able to complete one, are you just consistently going to blame that player for not being able to just beat him and physically overwhelm him? Now, the flip side of that is you can't be doing too many things as an offense that your kids don't have a chance to execute or physically overwhelm their opponent, okay? The kids deserve an opportunity to do that. But as we move forward here and we talk about execution, I want to point out, I guess, I want to call it our execution model, the things that we do within our offense, or as coaches to help our kids establish execution, because we always talk about that. We say we win or lose games based off our ability to execute in certain situations. So I spent some time and really reflecting on what we do to help our kids execute, okay? And it starts, if you look up top here, okay, those 4 things up there really have to do with your schematics, okay? Your ability to kind of stretch the field out, the balance that you would have with, in your football program as a run pass, the option football world, okay? And I'm not just necessarily talking about under center option or zone read. RPO stuff now is a variation of option football. In the multiplicity that you bring to your scheme, your tempos, your personnel, the formations, the play families that you have. Those 4 things have to do with, scheme, okay? And what kind of offense you run and what kind of things you're going to do. One of my favorite words, by the way, I'll talk about this toy right here. In all of football right now, it's called distortion. And I think so many yards are gained through offenses creating distortion on a defense. And that's called the Holberman sphere, by the way, if you don't know what that is, okay? And I use that toy and I illustrate to the guys all the time. Football is pretty simple. It really is just a matter of getting the ball from one side of that sphere to the other. Now, sometimes you might have the people that just kind of drive it back and push back to cross the goal line. You might throw over the top of it, but really a lot of times what people are trying to do is, distort a defense by, separating and spreading them out. And when I say I use the word spread loosely because I'm not just talking about being a spread offense. Certainly you can distort a defense by formations, taking your splits and widening them out. Those sort of things create distortion naturally. But, you can be in 13 personnel and you can distort a defense by, you see the fly sweep stuff. You see the power read variations. You see the different, pass games that you have nowadays to create distortion of defense. But there's a ton of yardage that's being had right now on offenses by their ability to create distortion. So really, when we go into a game every week, we try to figure out what are we doing to create distortion in the defense, okay? Now, the bottom 6 things you see down here really have to do with maybe some of the things you're going to emphasize to your kids, the things that you're going to do, that you're going to kind of, hang your hat on philosophically speaking, okay? So we have a saying in our office, talk about remember your training. And, I read a book, a long time ago. It's called D-Day. It's about the invasion of Normandy. And the whole first half of the book wasn't about the day itself. The whole first half of the book was about the preparation that the Allied forces did in order to prepare to invade Normandy. And the second half of the book was about the actual invasion. And it's very similar to football. Is that you spend so much time training our guys to do certain things and skills. Are we doing a good job of identifying what the mundane skills or the mundane fundamentals of those positions are, and so that when moments of stress, like a football game, okay, come up, maybe a different stimulus, all of a sudden a different pressure or a different kind of coverage technique, is the player relying on his training, the things that he's done in order to execute against that individual, that player, okay? And so we talk about, are you remember your training? And then, spending time as coaches reflecting, what are you training your guys on, okay? We want to promote physical football in our program, okay? That is something that'll never go away. The ability to try to distort and displace people by physically moving them and getting your hats on them and blocking them. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about maybe numbers today and, overage and how many plays on third downs and how many red zone plays and how many open script calls. At the end of the day, none of that will matter if you aren't playing physical football. So you have to promote that. Same thing will have to go with being said about ball security. We all understand, guys, that if you're turning the ball over, you're going to have a hard time scoring points and staying in the field. Let me jump up here. Opportunities for guys to make a play. Do you have and do you evaluate after a game and things you put in your call sheet? How many times am I giving somebody an opportunity to make a play? And maybe that's your running back. Maybe you're giving him the ball, and you know there's going to be an extra defender in the box, and he has to beat him. Okay, or it is that scenario I talked about before, where you're throwing the ball down the field, at your best receiver against a corner. And how many times in a game are you providing somebody on your team, one of your best playmakers, to make a play? Okay, we want to make sure we're staying aggressive with both our demeanor as football players, but also, how we're calling plays. We don't want to sit there and always be kind of, a check down Charlie. We did a study, guys, and I'll talk about this later. But we talk about, what kind of football plays create explosive plays. And we'd spent a study in our league, and we'd spent a lot of time talking about, what kind of play is an explosive play? Is it just giving balls to your best players? Is it trick plays? Is it play actions? Whatever it is. At the end of the day, and this was true in what I've seen from every conference I've studied, by far the most explosive play is a vertically thrown football. And so you have to make sure that you're doing a good job of monitoring and quality controlling and checking yourself out to make sure that you're getting the ball thrown down the field enough. We'll spend a lot of time talking about this today. When you're out there practicing, are you practicing things with a purpose? Are you doing specific reps? Are you managing the overage that you're going to carry into a game? Because at the end of the day, you have to quantify those sort of things.